Hi, so in this lesson I just wanted to talk about the importance of chord tones, maybe that's a little better, with improvising over whether it be jazz or country or rock or whatever you find yourself, whatever situation you find yourself in. So I've always made it a big part of my playing or practicing to restrict myself, especially when learning tunes. Like I don't feel like I know a tune unless I can outline the chord changes and or sing them. You know, on a separate note, like for practicing ear training. So, for example, I'll just take a tune like Autumn Leaves, and I'll go through it once, just playing chord tones. Now, I may play more than one at a time, but generally, I'm just going to be playing chord tones, just as an example. And then I'll talk about some ways to practice it, to get it more in your ears and under your fingers on the fretboard. So here we go. So Autumn Leaves, and I'll start with a melody to just give you a little idea, get your head into the game a little bit. So so that example, I mean, there were some connecting notes that my ear got the best of me there, where I started to hear some ideas to connect some of the chord tones. But ultimately, as you'll hear in this next example, everything was based off of the motion of the chord tones. So here, what I'm gonna, this is also an idea that you could use to practice. One thing I always tell my students is to think about like two approaches. Think about as many as you can come up with, of course, but in this case, the two main ones are to be able to play everything on single strings and to be able to play in every single position throughout the tune. So I'll just demonstrate first. I'll just start here because it lies really nicely in the 8th position. So I'll play the first chord. So basically the chords go C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, A minor 7 flat 5, to D7 to G minor 7, which can be like minor 7 or minor major 7. And then it goes to a G dominant 7th to lead you back to that cycle. So it's a 2, 5, 1, 4, and then a 2, 5 of relative minor. And then the bridge goes to something else, but well, just a 2, 5, 1 in minor, and then some other things that pop up. But for this exercise, I'll just talk about the A section, which are the chords I just went over. So right here in this position, so I'm thinking like from lowest available note to highest is the best way to approach it. So for the C minor 7, I have C, E flat, G, B flat. So 1, and I'm sure you'll know this pattern. 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, and then you're back into 1 again. So we can go all the way up to the flat 3rd. 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3. And then if we're going to start on the F7 now, the next chord, we would start on the lowest available note in that position, which would be a C note, which is your 5th of the F7. So we would then go up 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5, flat 7. And then for the B flat major 7, the lowest available, and I'm going to not go down to here, which would be the root. I'm going to start, it's just to sort of limit yourself to that position so you can get out of patterns. And you want to do this, of course, in every position. So it is a pursuit that will take a while. I mean, I'm still working on it. So anyway, but so right here, 3rd for B flat major 7, 5th major 7, root 3, 5, 7, root, and 3rd. And then E flat major 7, the lowest available would be the 7th. So we have 7, 1, 3, 5, one is a minor 7 flat 5. So we would start on the C note, which is going to be your flat third now of A minor 7 flat 5, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, and then root, flat third, flat 5, flat 7, root, flat third, flat 5. And then the D7 would be, the lowest available would also be the C, which would be now the flat 7 of D. So flat 7, root, third, fifth, flat 7, root. Now this one gets a little tricky in terms of fingering, so you could go to this D if you'd rather. And then third, fifth, flat 7, and then root. Now I'll descend with the other option for the root. So root, flat 7, fifth, third, root, flat 7, fifth, third, and root. And then we're going to finally end on the tonic, which will be G minor 7. So that would be, this note actually would be some fretbows. So this note would be the fifth of G. So we have 5, flat 7, root, flat third, fifth, flat 7, root, flat third, fifth. All right, and then and then the G7 with the last one. So you could probably just go down to the third of G, which would be there, or you could start on the fifth, which would be definitely all set in the position. So I'll start here. So 3, 5, flat 7, root, 3, 5, flat 7, root, 3, 5. So now, just going up and down those arpeggios will, it might sound a little boring, but it will definitely outline the changes very confidently. So like. E flat 7, major 7, E flat, major 7, G7, G minor 7, dominant 7, back to the C minor, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, and so forth. So hopefully that's helpful. And of course you want to do this, what I used to do is sort of pick a position every day and go through several tunes in that one position. And of course some things are going to have to, you have to be a little malleable with your fingerings because not everything's going to work well in that position. So I'll just quickly do the same thing in the fifth position. Just to save time, I won't name every note as I'm doing it, but I'll say the chords. So in the fifth position, C minor 7. Autumn leaves, so start with the C minor 7. F7, B flat, major 7, E flat major, A minor 7 flat 5, D7, G minor 7, G dominant 7, and so forth. And then, of course, the same kind of thing in the third position. I mean, to do like the fourth position, it's kind of not really going to work out because you're going to end up having to do a lot of awkwardness in terms of the fingerings. So basically you end up being in the third position anyway at that point. So anyway, here it is in the third position again. So C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, and then, wrong note because I'm talking. So it's hard for me to talk and do it at the same time. But at any rate, that's the idea. So going through and doing that. And then, that's the idea with positions. And then, of course, you want to try to do single strings as well. So now, here would be, you obviously wouldn't be able to play up in eighth notes like I was just doing because technically it's not really possible. But so I'll just go up and show you. So the C, on the high E string, the C minor 7. So we're going to start on the lowest available note, which will be your fifth. Flat 7, root, flat third, fifth, flat 7, root. All right? And then F7, the lowest available would be right here. 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5. And then B flat major 7, fifth, 7th, root, third, fifth, 7th, and root, third, and E flat major 7, third, fifth, 7th, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Then A minor 7 flat 5, flat 7, root, flat 3rd, flat 5, flat 7, root, flat 3rd, D7, which would be on your 3rd, 5th, flat 7, root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7. You can go to your root on that one. And then G minor 7, flat 7, root, flat 3rd, 5th, flat 7, root, flat 3rd, 5th. And then dominant 7th would just be the same as the minor 7 with a major 3rd, so you don't have to alter one note. So flat 7, root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, root, 5th. I'm sorry, 3rd and 5th. And so, like, once you get them comfortable and you sort of do that work with those arpeggios, then you can start to find ways. Like, and I realize it's like, well, how am I supposed to solo on just one string and make it sound interesting? Well, by playing less notes. And then so it forces you to think about things like, it forces you to find ways to stay interesting, to do things differently, like motivically, for one thing. And then, of course, with single strings, I also find a benefit with playing things on single strings is that it's a little easier to hear because you physically see the interval, right? Like, so for example, if you're on a C minor 7, here's your root, playing up to the flat 3rd like that is a lot more physical than this flat 3rd, even though it's the same thing. So I find ear training wise, I tend to be limited technically on single strings than you would be if you're playing in positions, but I find myself, I guess, being more accurate with being able to hear a definitive idea and execute it, because I won't, like, I guess my fingers won't take over and destroy, but the idea that I'm originally hearing, which happens more than I would like it to. But anyway, so here it is. So I'll try to, I'll play a little bit on just one string of Autumn Leaves. Okay, so to give you an idea of some things that maybe you'll find useful. So here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where it would have gone to the bridge, but I'm just sticking with these chords for now, just as an example. So I guess more than anything, the thing I just wanted to mention with this is, or drive home, is that the chord tones. I know it's like the first thing you hear about, like it's it's the most fundamental thing in terms of outlining changes, but it gets overlooked a lot because I think people get bored with it. Because that's all maybe they do is just sort of work on those chord tones. But I think when you force yourself to come up with ideas or ways to practice this, and there are so many possibilities. So like one thing, for example, I do with students is I call it the Bach Invention exercise, where we'll play a standard where one person's always playing. Well, both of us are always just playing a chord tone. It can be any one at any time, and it will sound beautiful because with the exception of the times that you happen to be playing the same exact note, it's always a harmony. So it's really nice. So for example, I'll just go through and I'll play again off the changes like I did in the intro. Some things where I'll start to, like, this can, some ideas that might sound a little more modern, but it's still just based off of a chord tone. So you start thinking, well, maybe I can leap a little bit with intervals. So for example, if you go through like this. Maybe add some other notes. that's just one example. But I don't know. Hopefully you find this helpful. It's mostly just to drive home the importance of chord tones soloing. Because everything else you play when you're talking about tensions and soloing off of chord scales, ultimately it's going to resolve to those chord tones. So it's sort of like this is a real fundamental video, I guess, is the bottom line. So have fun. Hopefully it's useful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and subscribe to my YouTube page. And you'll see more videos coming soon. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.